You got some fascinating stuff on there.
That's why I keep moving here.
You got to keep moving. You can't read any headlines.
Dude. But I know who that guy is.
I know.
All right. We're coming live here. Let me see. Let me put in the...
Oh, I got to let people know we're on the air. We're going to be starting soon. We got a great episode today. If you're on YouTube and you already hear me talking.
Yeah, we're very excited.
This is an episode with Jim Gaither. He wrote the great pamphlet, What is Metaphysics for Unity?
Mm-hmm.
You could find that online. Or if you go to a Unity church, you can see if they have it in their bookstore, which they might just have.
Almost ready to launch.
I'm going to hide that. Tell me when you're ready and I'll turn on the...
Almost ready. Right here.
Just a few minutes, folks, and we'll be going live.
We'll be loving our good and plenty. All right.
You ready for the record?
Yep. All right, this is exciting.
Okay, Edward, are you ready?
Yeah, let me just close this.
Okay.
Don't worry, Gigi. You can still get around, right? Going up?
You might have to grab it from the bottom, like all the way at the bottom.
What if I just do that?
Yeah, it'll stay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to The Funniest Thing,
Yes.
where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell.
I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from middle school studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Yes.
And today we have a great news. We don't only have a great show, we have great news for you. What is it?
That's right. There is no need to rush around. You have the divine right of way with Jim Gaither. Christianity is governed by scientific principles of mind action, which are really the foundation of all the various sciences. Simply put, it is practical wisdom for happy and successful living. Through choosing to believe and trust in love, intuitive divine guidance, and miracles of good, we live in a world of opportunity. On this episode, Darrell and Ed highlight our divine ability to choose the path leading to success in each and every situation. And during the second segment, guest, the Reverend Jim Gaither, motivates us all to cooperate with these simple spiritual methods and enjoy experiencing living from miracle to miracle with today's reading, Wisdom.
And we have a good reading to kick things off, don't we?
This guy?
Yeah, because remember?
Go right into that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you have not read the book, or if you don't have it, Fear Not, Messages of Assurance by Martha Smock. It is power-packed. It's not the one, this version, I think I got this actually from Unity. I did. But it's not my favorite layout, I must admit, and the paper's kind of cheap. But hey, the words carry the power. So the book is called Fear Not, Messages of Assurance. The chapter is called Make a Positive Statement. And this is how we can choose the path that we want to be on by making positive statements. So she said, how we pray a prayer determines whether it becomes a positive statement. She talks about how, you've talked about this, how thy will be done can be an affirmation or it could be a prayer of resignation or even fear.
Yeah, because some people, like I thought years ago, which I no longer thought, I thought it meant I would really love this to happen, but thy will be done.
Yeah.
Meaning, I know I probably won't get the best thing, but I'll settle for whatever you're going to give me.
Right.
Which is
Right.
horrible, and that's a prayer in itself.
That's right. And that is the opposite of realizing that we have the divine right of way.
Well, it's actually using our divine right use of mind, but not realizing it because I'm setting the tone. I'm actually doing a negative prayer.
Yep.
And that's why most of the time I got results that matched
Yes.
that prayer.
Yes.
If it be thy will.
Yes.
You know, I want to do such and such, but you probably want me to pave roads for a living.
Right.
So we're saying to, when all these books say, and even Jesus was saying, believe it or not, was to believe, I would love this, or I would like this, or I hope this works out for whoever we're praying for. And then thy will be done. You know, thy will be done. Meaning, if it be thy will. Meaning that this is the best I can imagine with my limited little human brain. But I know you, God, have an infinite possibility of even better than this or something even better.
Right.
So I'm going to release my control and fear about this in knowing that your imagination of resolution in this situation is much greater than mine.
That's right.
That's what we're trying to get to here, folks.
Yeah, and that's, we can also, in those moments along the lines of what you're saying, is affirm things that we know are true, that that person is an expression of God in every way, and that God is only good, and that God is expressing through this person. So we're recognizing the truth that God is only good, and then letting it go, like you said, letting God have free play.
And one last thing before you go into that I was thinking about this week. Because even my mind sometimes reverts back to its old way of thinking about words, you know, and a lot of the things we read in spiritual books, you know, coming to believe in God, or believing in God, or I believe God is working in this.
Yes.
Or trust in God. And substituting the word God, if it's hard for you, I'm just, you know, trust God and go do your bidding. Well, sometimes that word God or trust God is going to take care of me, or in God we trust, he's going to meet my needs.
Right.
Sometimes that word is too abstract in certain times. Like you don't really get it, or maybe you have a bad taste in your mouth with that, you know, from other people sharing their ideas of what God is with you. So we recommend, and I was doing it this week, trust in good, have faith in good. You could substitute the word God for good. Who was the author that even recommended that?
Emma Curtis Hopkins.
Emma Curtis Hopkins. It just takes all the boogeyman stuff or the vague feeling of what that word may mean or not mean to you or myself, and it throws the boogeyman out the window when I do that.
Right.
I want to trust in good. You can feel it instantly. I want to trust in good.
Yep. That's right. I mentioned I think it was on the last show, though, the show before, that the first affirmation I always use in the morning is only the good is real. When I start to hear other voices, like while I'm making my way to my morning routine, I got that also from Emma Curtis Hopkins. Only the good is real, because that's the principle that makes this show go. Because I was thinking about it in the shower. I was like, what is this show about for me? One, it's recognizing that we all have a divine right to be who we truly are. Because when I was telling Jim this before the show started, but the show title came from me crossing a street and running across because I thought the lady coming around the corner might not see me. And I talked about this recently, but she slowed.
Even though you had the green light.
No, it was at a stop sign. You know, by the postal between the post office and Sweet Flower place.
Oh yeah, but it's
Yeah.
a pedestrian. It's clearly a pedestrian
Right.
walkway, folks. I just want you to know
Right, but
that.
I was a little bit off the corner, but I was scurrying, like you said, even though there's a crosswalk, I was scurrying across, but she slowed down for some reason, rolled down her window and was saying something to me. I said, "What did you say?" And she said, "You have the right of way. Take your time. I see you." And at that moment, it was God speaking through her to me, or like like a parable. I heard the other meaning along with it is like, slow down, Ed. You are an expression of God. You are divinely supported. Stop rushing around. And to realize that, so the three things that came into the shower were the show is about recognizing that we all have a divine right to be who we truly are. And so many of us have been taught that it is selfish, in the negative sense of the word, to be who we are. And so, or to express ourselves,
or it's blasphemous to expect good things to happen.
Yeah, and to be true to the things that make us who we are. Might have offended someone in our environment. They might have got mad, whatever. A parent or a teacher. So then we got to figure out or remember who we even are. Many of us we have so many voices in our heads that we mistake for ourselves. It's so delightful that when I align with my own inner voice and discover who I am. I know that feeling. So these principles and teachers and writers that we read from and talk about provide for us a way to figure out who we really are without having to spend a lot of money or do anything extreme, because there's a lot of people out there who are going to sell you these methods and they're going to tell you got to do all this extreme stuff to get back to who you are. But these old teachers that we read from say exactly the opposite. We have a simple practice like the morning routine, reading these books, and tuning into shows like ours, or to Jim Gaither when you can you can tune into one of his talks or take a class with Jim. These things remind us that it's not extreme. It's actually, we don't have to make up a new self. No. We know who we are. We just kind of remember who we are. Then that leads us to principles that help us remember who we are, that we are divinely created. And that when I'm being myself, I feel happy, healthy. I feel generous with others. We are expressions of God. So whatever is true about God, which leads to what Darrell was saying, whatever is true about God is true about us. So we want to explore, what does even God mean to us individually? And that's why Darrell and I love what Emma Curtis Hopkins say, God is good and only good is real. And that is something I use on a regular basis. So,
well, wait, I got to say this.
Yeah,
I was using the trust in good this week because I put some things out there for review. And when you do that, the tendency after you don't hear from anyone is to, unfortunately, think the possibility that they probably don't like it, they're probably going to pass, or it probably doesn't measure up, which then leads to, what's the point? Was this any good? Well, in the first place, is what I'm doing of any value or any good, or am I just kidding myself? Am I an egomaniac? Why do I even try? So this is what I did. I chose to do. Anytime I would start having those thoughts, I would use the trust in God. I switch it, trust in good. Okay, so that means I'm not permitted in a healthy way to think the alternative, the negative. And it forced me to stay in line with, I'm only going to think good. I'm only allowed to think good in this situation.
Yeah.
And an absolute no, where people responded with no thanks, this isn't going to work for us, it's not applicable, was the word. Somehow, yesterday turned into, wow, okay, we're going to reconsider. So now it turned into we're going to reconsider this thing, which is 180 degree flip.
Right.
And that's in less than a week's time. But it was because I was adamant for myself, not to think, because I already surrendered, okay, in this case, in this situation, they're going to pass, but that's not going to kill me. That just means God's got something better. And I felt delighted about that idea.
Yes.
But then any time my mind tried to think, negatively toward them for saying no, or it being worthwhile to even go forward, I'd go, no, trust in, like you were saying, trust in God. I switched it. Trust in good. I can only trust in good. And by doing that, I felt better. It helped me stay in that high place. But then we get evidence of it. We get evidence of it. And that kind of goes with what Ed's going to read of how to keep your prayers in the affirmative.
Yeah, well, I think this is actually all leading to that, because I think I got to throw in this tool real quick, because it goes along with what you're saying. Like, so from Abraham Hicks a while back, I read this in this really old book that we got at that Science of Mind in Inglewood. It looks like a computer programmer's manual. It's like before they had like the,
it was
like the Hay House looking books.
Yeah, it was I know what it was. It was like it wasn't really it was almost like a binder type thing. What was it called? It's like, I wish I could think. There's an actual word for how they used to make these booklets where it's, the 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, like clamped together, cheaply, but the font is all like ordinary.
No, well, this was actually a book, but it was more like this weird 70s. I don't know. It just looked like something you'd get that would come with like a Texas Instrument computer, like a manual.
Oh, it was one of those.
It was an actual book. But I read this tool in there, which is called
Texas Instruments.
Yeah,
I remember those.
They
were like 5 by 7 or 5 by 9.
Yeah, now we're cooking. Yes,
and they're about an inch thick of something you're never gonna read.
Yes. So, I used to sit home and read because we got a Texas Instrument computer in my house, and I my brother learned how to program a little Mr. Bojangles, like 4 blocks that would like look like it was quote dancing. Anyway, so I the tool that I got from there, I mentioned it recently, but I really used it this week, and it's a very simple way to combine denials and affirmations and do what Darrell was saying, which is in real time to be able to keep switching back onto. Because the divine right of way is an inner right of way. It's a thinking, it's a vibrational right of way. And it's our divine right to be here and live this inspired life, but we have to, like the Texas Instrument, program our subconscious to get back on board. So the tool is called the I'd rather tool. That's what I'll call it. It says, and so like when I'm feeling stuck, or like, especially those moments where it's like, how am I going to get, like, I know what I want to be thinking, but I feel far away from it. Just simply relax and say, I'd rather be thinking something like, I'd rather be thinking about how amazing my life is right now. I'd rather be, and this was like after I did my morning routine. Like, so I had to do a little meditation to soften up, like, start to let go of the other thoughts that are going through my mind, the subconscious, and they're just like filling my head. And then I'd rather be recognizing today that I'm already in heaven. I have so much to give to the people around me. I'd rather be fully believing all of these wonderful teachers that I'm reading, the things Darrell says, all of my affirmations. And all of a sudden, so it's tricking my subconscious mind. Like, it's like my son, when I used to take him to preschool and he didn't want to go, I'd go, don't worry, son, we're not going to stay. We're just going to talk to your teacher for a moment. I used this line so many times, and then he'd get in there and then he'd see his friends and he'd want to stay. So it's like kind of like doing that with our subconscious mind. It's like, don't worry, I'm not going to try to make us think anything, but I'm just saying I'd rather have a fun and easy visit.
And being honest with yourself.
Yes.
That's
right.
the best part. The
That's
anchor
right.
isn't like trying to fool myself.
Right.
Because you're saying I'd rather.
Right.
It's because some people have a problem with affirmations because they feel like crap, but then they go, no, I feel great. I'm on holy ground. Everything around me is going to be holy. And I could understand that doesn't work.
I know. And you're talking to a guy who's, every time I stumble into a new way to not do what you're saying, because I've been a king of doing it that way in the past. And so because in every moment, whether you're going into Trader Joe's, right, you could say, I'd rather recognize the beauty and joy. Well, this might be a little extreme, but I was feeling high because I had already written these other ones. But like, I'd rather have a fun and easy visit in Trader Joe's.
Yes.
I'd rather get in and out of there quickly. I'd rather bless everyone I see. Or if you're going to talk to, I'd rather have a fun, easy visit with my principal if it's someone at the school. Or I'd rather laugh at myself easily today and enjoy life fully.
Yes.
And what it's tapping into is what Florence Scovel said, your word is your wand.
Yes.
That it's like the true meaning of like meek. It's using the authority of your voice, but you don't have to like the message I've been getting lately intuitively is stop pushing so hard, Ed. Why are you pushing so hard in everything you're doing? And this is a way to not push so hard. It's just saying a light request, a light I'd rather, but it puts the whole universe in motion because we don't have to coerce God. God's already there going, we got this amazing whole thing lined up for you. And this is just me learning how to collaborate with God. You know, the affirmation I've been using from Silent Unity, which ties in with what you're saying, which helped me because I called Silent Unity last week. I think because I'm growing so much and so much good is happening right now that what Emmett Fox calls the devil's last ditch is happening. Or Florence Scovel, the army of aliens, these old thoughts are like, whoa, they almost feel like they're taking me over, you know, like I'm losing. But then this is what helps for me is saying, my success is natural for me as I give this to God.
Yes.
It's like giving it to God and realizing all that chatter, it doesn't even matter. I'm not doing it that way anymore. I'm giving this to the loving universe to handle, and I'm an expression of this good, and I just feel good, and somehow by doing that, I open the way for all of this good to pour forth and all of these things that just by simply praying as if it's already so, right? That's what I'd rather is too, like Jesus said. Pray as if it's already so. All right, I'd rather have the best day of my life. I'd rather be enjoying being in this studio with an amazing artist like Fazaro and an amazing city like Culver City, getting to talk to Jim Gaither. I'd rather enjoy that today rather than like, oh, are you going to say the right things? Or is this good enough? I'd rather just be here enjoying it. And then when I do that light, I'm a light unto the world. That feeling goes out to the people around me and it just transforms everything.
Well, this is the thing. It's in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Saying I'd rather is like in the description saying it's our divine ability to choose the path leading to success. In any situation, if I start cursing it because I'm anticipating what I've always gotten in the past from there, well, that's not choosing the path leading to success. That's choosing the path that I've already been down. But do you really want to keep going down that path?
Right.
So by saying, you know what, in this situation, I'd rather have everything work out effortlessly, easily, and better than expected.
Yeah.
And that is choosing. It's that simple. We got some quick readings before Jim comes on that really hammer this home.
Now that we've done all this, let's just go through the lineup and then we'll get to this, do the breathings.
You don't want to,
Because I think that'll set up this. Let's do so. Because we got a great Emmett Fox.
We got a great Emmett Fox. Now
and an Ernest Holmes.
We recommend, now all these are going with what go along with our topic. We have the divine right away, but like we've been mentioning, it takes a mental choice to trust in good and to ask yourself, if you're feeling bad, what would I rather be experiencing? And allow your mind to go in that direction. Because as soon as you do, like Ed said, the whole universe rushes in to assist going towards good. The reason the other way feels so heavy and arduous and takes so much mental effort and physical strain and stress is because thinking that way, that we have to overcome something, is not God's will. It's not thy will be done. Yeah. Thy will be done is let me work things out. Just think accordingly to the possibility of things are going to work out. And even if it seems like it's a no, well then, hallelujah. That means something even better is coming. So here in Around the Year with Emmett Fox, that we recommend you read from in the morning like we do, if you have it, I'm just going to read the last line from February 21st and then a few lines from today. And it's actually change from within is the topic. And it's all about what we're talking about. It's and Jim Gaither's favorite topic, what metaphysics is all about. And here we go. Whenever you think of whatever and whenever you think about any subject, you are treating it with your thought either for good or evil. Meaning, whatever I'm thinking about this situation right now that I'm going into, I'm actually treating it. That's a prayer. That's why I like there's that Unity song, Every Thought's a Prayer. Right. Every thought's a prayer, folks. But that's good news. Since you are, and I'm going to read on, since you are a mental being, you will see how foolish it is for you to endeavor to improve your conditions by altering your environment while leaving your mind unchanged. To attempt this is to foredoom yourself to disappointment. Mind is cause and experience is effect. If you do not like the experience or effect that you are getting, the obvious remedy is to alter the cause, and then the effect will naturally alter too. And then I have a following that up, because you might go, oh no, is it what if things aren't going well because of my old thinking? Well, just like Emmett Fox says, we're going to hammer it home here. You could change your mind. And whenever we change it to good, we have the power of the entire universe with us. And this is from Ernest Holmes, from The Science of Mind, which is a giant book. It's worth having, and like Darrell and Ed recommend, you don't have to read this from page 1 and go through the whole, just flip it to whatever page that pops up. Yes. And just like what happened for me this morning, it was perfect for the show. And this is page 128, chapter 6, if you have the book. We are bound by nothing except belief. And then it quotes the Bible. They could not enter in because of their unbelief and because they limited the Holy One of Israel. Here is the point. Everything we experience, touch, taste, handle, and smell, the environment, our bodies, conditions, money, happiness, friends, are all effects. And if man is a thinking center in mind, nothing is going to happen to him that does not happen through him, whether it be the result of his own erroneous conclusions, those of his grandfather, or those of the race to which he belongs. This is not in any sense fatalistic, for we may change the trend of causation which has been set in motion at any time we decide to do so.
Yes. Wow. You know, for some reason, I just when you were started thinking of reading that, I thought about something I wrote down last week, and then you said we are bound, and so I remembered last week I realized religion means to bind.
Yep.
And then like the secular idea of religion is like whatever you do repetitively, right? You know, he does it religiously. So lately I've been holding myself to this awareness, like if I'm thinking about something with feeling, that's my religion in that moment.
Yeah, in that moment.
You know, because it changes your whole chemistry, my chemistry, the things I think about, what I want to do next. And so I wrote, whatever we think about repetitively each day is our religion. So that's something to ask yourself, like, do I really want this to be my religion when you're thinking about something? And it says we're bound, and I wrote, we're bound to that thing.
Yes, that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, and we're bound to demonstrate it. Yes. And if you think about the word bound can also mean moving in the direction of, like when we're traveling. That's what we're bound for.
I'm homeward bound. I wish I was.
Right. And often we think, and I think that it's like, it would be sacrilege to not think in these old ways, even if they don't ring true for me anymore. But it's actually sacrilege to think thoughts that are not true to who we are. And I looked up, sacrilege means to steal sacred things or to rob them from the temple. So, you think about this thing that houses the creative part of your mind is called the temple in your head. I'm pointing to the temple, you know, your temple in your head. So for me and for us, our temple is our mind. That's what we actually call that part of our head that houses this creative, like evolving part of our brain. So when we're robbing the temple, it's robbing ourselves of our authenticity, of our creativity, of our intuition, of salvation, which remember, salvation means solution.
You know how crazy this is? When we're afraid to give up ideas that we heard from our mom or from a priest
or some teacher who was having a terrible day and was just an unhappy person
20 years ago, and we think, oh no, this is blasphemy, this is sacrilegious. I have to reframe these things. Would it be blasphemous if I no longer showed up to kindergarten at 62 years old? Like, that would seem ridiculous, trying to squeeze myself in that tiny little chair.
Oh my God.
That's what we're doing.
That's so true.
It's twisted when you think about it.
Yeah, that's so true. Or just think about anything where you're like, I'm 50. If I'm even imagining I'm a 22-year-old kid in college, or I'm a 17-year-old kid, like, that's so... I'm so good. Yeah, when you say that clearly, that's the kind of thing that goes along with like asking myself, do I really want this to be my religion? Because I'm thinking about it with feeling, and I keep thinking about it each day, looking at everything through that, because that's what matters. The universe is responding to our thinking. And here we go. Let's get to the Martha Smock.
Yes.
She says, so again, this is from Make a Positive Statement in Fear Not, Messages of Assurance. She says, how we pray a prayer determines whether it becomes a positive statement. And so she quotes Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore says, instead of a supplication, prayer should be a jubilant thanksgiving.
Yes.
This method of prayer quickens the mind miraculously and like a mighty magnet draws out the spiritual qualities that transform the whole man when they are given expression in mind, body, and affairs. So then she says, make a positive statement. Make your prayers jubilant affirmations of truth and life and power. Expect a miracle. Why not?
Trust in good. And
that was the woman who ran Daily Word for like 35 years.
Yeah.
Yes. These ways, like her and May Rowland, who did the Silent Unity, were powerhouses, but they were so practical. Darrell and I were just getting high off of the idea of what would it be like to have these people on the show? Because, man, there's like this stuff really...
They give you permission
it's exciting.
To believe in a way that naturally feels good, so it must be true. But somewhere in our little head, no, that's blasphemous. How dare I think in good?
And if you want to know if you're like living this stuff, when you get to that moment where your mind might say, where my mind might say, can it really be like that? That seems crazy. No, you're headed in the right direction.
Yes.
And metaphysics and then new thought and unity is to keep going. Of course your mind's going to, because that's the old mind, telling you these limited ideas. So get excited. We have to be like children. This is why these people were so powerful, because they had enthusiasm and wonder because they were living it.
Charlie, wait, we got to do it. Charlie, because
I forgot about Charlie.
He said to pray with exuberance and enthusiasm.
That's right.
So he's basically saying, and we're going to turn it into our three breaths.
Yeah, this is a little throwback to an old mantra that used to be on the television, I believe.
Okay.
Charlie says, enjoy your good and plenty.
Charlie says, enjoy your good and plenty.
There you go.
Charlie says,
enjoy your good and plenty. You know what else Charlie said?
It really rings the bell.
Yes. And we got a postcard from Kirky in our P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232. That's P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232.
Send us mail.
I
We
spilled
love it.
something on this if you're looking on YouTube. By the way, if you're on the podcast app, you can watch it live on YouTube on Saturdays, the show, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Go to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, or you can just watch the whole episodes played back.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube, get on your podcast app and subscribe wherever you're at. Like the show, subscribe, comment on it, share it with your friends.
Yes.
She sent us a picture of a guy, little Kirky, saying, I have grown weary of listening to the nonsense. And then Ed saying, yes. And Darrell saying, finally. And it says, stop listening to the nonsense. Our thoughts and acts ride on a return circuit, and they never fail to react upon us. That's from Barker and Holmes.
And that's what we're talking about.
Kirky's a professional screenwriter. He says, make your own story. Why not? Thanks to the people contributing on Patreon. Hopefully, if you're on the Patreon and supporting the show, you're also going to Patreon to watch or participate in the Tuesday Zooms that we do, 4 p.m. Pacific time. We get a lot out of it. Everyone who comes gets a lot out of it. It's the same stuff. We just share what's going on that day. We could do a show every day because we're living this stuff, and so could you. Is there anything else? Oh, we want to thank our chief engineer.
Oh, that's right. Our chief engineer, Jeff Comfort.
Each week,
he takes us
right into the comfort zone. Yeah. Man, I see Sherry Knight, Barbara Weatherman, Lois Conklin. They're out there on YouTube. Lois just said, Lois here, loving the show. Darrell, thanks for the postcard.
Wow.
She loves it. Well,
you're welcome.
There you go. All right, coming up next, guest, the Reverend Jim Gaither, motivates us all to cooperate with these simple spiritual methods and enjoy experiencing living from miracle to miracle with today's reading, Wisdom. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed, live from Middle School Studios in beautiful downtown Culver City, the heart of Screenland.
Would it be safe to say it's empirical to live from miracle to miracle?
I think Jim would like that. All right, are you gonna tinkle?
Yeah, just might as well. And Jim could turn on his mic and his camera.
Turn on the mic and your camera. Hey, buddy.
Here I am again.
We're back.
Great
again.
show, guys.
Hey, thank you. As soon as Darrell returns from
What happened to my
the library?
Expanded my picture to the messy part of my room. How did that happen? I'm gonna have to go back to.
You shifted over to your right, huh?
Yeah.
There we go.
I know what to do. Don't start me up yet.
We're
on break, right?
Yeah. We're on break, but I have to say, live, the people on YouTube Live are watching us together. The YouTube is unedited, behind the scenes look at Jim Gaither setting up the studio. Man, what a beautiful day! What a beautiful day! Where are you, Jim?
I am in Lee Summit, Missouri.
Oh, oh, wow, man! I do love visiting Lee Summit, Missouri, man.
Yeah, I like living here.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, that's where Unity Village is located. And if you haven't visited, stay at the inn over there sometime. Even if it's just, Darrell and I like to go just on an off time and just walk around. You can meditate, you'll get some messages come through because it is a prayer conditioned place.
If you ever stay at the hotel there, you might meet my wife because she helps out with the breakfast in the morning at the hotel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Have we met your wife? Did you know Jim's wife?
I don't know. She's not there every day, but she's there. She was there this morning. She'll be there tomorrow. Her schedule's just sort of erratic like mine.
We probably met her. Maybe I should go tinkle real quick. All right, leave this one. I'll close this one.
There we go. The land shifts. The land shifts here in Southern California. So spring, the doors don't close in one way. Winter, they don't close in another way.
We got the same thing here.
Fall, they'll close perfectly.
Yeah. Your house settles and resettles. Our houses move and live and breathe.
Yeah.
Just very slowly, so you don't notice it till, oh gosh, crack in my ceiling kind of thing.
Yep. Well, as soon as Ed returns, we'll kick things off.
All right. A great show so far.
Yeah. I just get reminded of everything I need to be reminded about. That's why I enjoy doing it.
You guys are really deeply steeped in the world of New Thought literature, I can tell.
Well, you know what? You could do anything if you do just a little bit each day.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like we read a couple of pages each day.
Yep.
And somehow, well, mainly because we need to, and we get
100%.
relief. But then
Well,
we're like, holy
the
cow.
books you kind of see behind me is part of my philosophy collection. But I
Nice.
also but I also have over here to the other side of me is a bookshelf full of like New Thought and Unity stuff. And
Oh,
some more. I got
cool.
more philosophy books and science books, and I got another bookshelf over here, and there's something along over here. It's ridiculous.
Yes, I can understand. I recently got a little nook in my house that was my wife's sewing studio, but now has a chair and my bookshelf, and I was finally able to like go into all the places where my New Thought books were hiding, and it's tall shelf, just like Daryl's got all these different places. It's so nice to kind of be able to see them
Yeah.
in one place and pull.
Yeah,
Like lately, Charles Fillmore is starting to jump out at me. Like I'll be honest, I haven't read a lot of just like times when I've focused just on Charles Fillmore. I've read bits of stuff and heard, but then I was really like, had a moment where I was like, I felt like my mind was like, what is Charles Fillmore really about? And then at that moment, all of a sudden, everything Fillmore started coming my way, which is awesome. So, all right, let's get started, shall we? The the second half.
yep, I'm ready if you are.
All right. Welcome back to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Today's show is called You Have the Divine Right of Way. The great Reverend Jim Gaither is with us. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. I'm living the dream.
I can tell. I can tell. If you're on YouTube, you can see the dream that Jim is living. So we have talked quite a bit about many things. Is there anything right off the top of your or the top of your head that you want to share based on what you've been hearing, or anything you prepared that you want to share with us?
I was just talking with Darrell on the break. And I guess I don't now remember who was here when I was talking because you were kind of wandering back and forth. But I just appreciate how much you guys are steeped in the uh, New Thought literature, if you will, and all the references that you make. Martha Smock and you mentioned May Rowland, and of course there's Holmes and so on and so forth. And I recognized the your reference from Emma Curtis Hopkins. Uh, I think the affirmation in the chapter you're referring to is one of the affirmations was my good is my God.
Yes,
I think is what it was, and so that was from Scientific Christian Mental Practice, right?
that's
Yes.
right. I just finished
Yes,
that book.
yeah. She's got another one called High Mysticism. I'm very much interested in mysticism. I
Mm,
teach a lot of courses on it. So and a lot of the things you guys were talking about made me think of that path. Um, the my academic background is in philosophy, and sort of studied like you guys have studied other things too. But the the earliest, and I'm very much into mysticism, and I teach these courses on mysticism, and it's kind of the earliest Western tradition of mysticism was pre-Christian, and it started with Plato. And Plato's sort of the fundamental method, I guess you could say, to experience a divine reality was to contemplate the nature of the good, to contemplate the nature of the beautiful, starting right where you are, the good that you see in the world around you, but then going deeper and reflecting on what's the nature of good in the realm of thought, what we call the realm of ethics, and what's the nature of the good and the true, and in contemplating the goal of this contemplation is a direct experience of divine reality, what he called the divine, the true ideas or the true forms, and that methodology of just contemplating the nature of the good, or the beautiful, enters directly into the history of Christian mysticism, and also directly into the history of Islamic mysticism, which is known as Sufism. That
mm.
you find in those writers that came after Plato, this method, using it over and over again in different ways. And when you read from, so you send me off on these tangents, but when you read from Emmett Fox, it made me think of my favorite little pamphlet is not one that I wrote. It's It's a pamphlet by Emmett Fox, and it's called The Golden Key. And I might
Yeah.
have mentioned I mentioned this so often, I might have mentioned this the last time I was on your program. But I think of that as sort of the essence of practical mysticism. And it really does work. You don't necessarily have to call it golden keying, but the basic idea, in simplest possible terms, is to stop thinking about your problems and start thinking about God. And that's what the mystic does. The mystic contemplates the nature of the divine until they achieve a state of consciousness that sort of transcends whatever's happening in the world, in their world. But Emmett Fox, I think, was right that if you can do this, it is sufficient to resolve like health issues. It can resolve health issues. It can resolve other sort of challenges. And I think of our experience is essentially the same thing as whatever it is we're putting our attention on. Whatever you put your attention on, that is what you're experiencing in that moment. So if your attention is on like, oh, how this or that is, how bad, how terrible that is, then that's what you are going to experience. But at any second, you can shift your consciousness and therefore shift your experience immediately by directing your attention to something else, some other idea, perhaps. But what the mystics say about the world is that it is a mirror of God, a reflection of God. So the idea of seeing God in all situations, it's an extremely simple concept. It's not that easy to do. But if you shift your attention to the idea that God is present in this situation, that good is present in this situation, that becomes your experience immediately, right? You start to experience the good, and then it may evolve into something larger and greater than that momentary immediate experience. And so this is also if you don't mind me, I'm going to do a little bit of metaphysics here,
Yeah.
as long as you got me talking.
No, keep
Uh,
going. We love this.
one of the great theological and philosophical controversies, as the British would say, controversies, uh, is the idea of whether or not the world is absolutely determined or whether or not humans have free will. And there's arguments on both sides. My argument is that uh, there are others that are probably better than this, but my argument is what my position is that since I am willing, whatever it is that I'm directing my attention to, when I direct my attention, that is my act of will. Whether I direct my attention to walking or talking or thinking, whatever it is, that is what I'm willing in that moment. That's point one. Point two is that there are an infinite number of possible things that you can direct your attention to, which means what you can direct your attention to is not determined because infinity is indeterminate. It's not determined, it's indeterminate, right? So, just as a simple example, there are an infinite number of mathematical truths. That's clear, right? Infinite number of mathematical truths. And every mathematical truth can appear as a graph or a geometric form, right? We might even say that mathematics and numbers have qualities, right? Like oneness is a quality. It's not just a number, it's a quality. So there's an infinite number of things, possibilities we can direct our attention to. We never run out of things, and therefore we have free will. We can choose to direct our attention to whatever we want to, which I think I have done this explanation that is nowhere near as clear as what you guys were talking about in the first half hour. I think you explained it in a way that maybe is a little more accessible. But then again, I didn't plan mine, so I just so I'm just responding to some of the things that you said and some of my impressions, some of my responses to what you said. So anyway, that's a few sharings for the moment.
Well, we appreciate it because what I like about what you bring to the table is more credibility and reassurance that wait a minute, this stuff can be relied on. Like these are
Yes.
facts that if we cooperate with them mentally and experiment with it, just like a mathematical equation, we're going to get the corresponding results. And that's another thing we tell people to do, that we do, is we take note of it. You know, we apply it, and then we take note. We pay attention to, holy cow, you know what? I was thinking, I forgot earlier, I in my morning routine, I affirmed X, Y, and Z in a positive way for a better than expected outcome, as opposed to me trying to, you know, fight my way through a problem that's not even out there. I'm imagining, you know, and making it more real than it's even real. And of course, then it becomes real because I'm acting as if it's real. So we get to see, holy cow, this really does work. And that's how we got the title of the show, matter of fact, was because when I was first being introduced to this stuff some 30 odd years ago, 38 years ago, while I was in the military, I was calling the guy who was my mentor, who was suggesting, you know, I read these books, I do these few simple things, and I'd be calling him going, funniest thing, Mike, you're not going to believe it. And that was my way of like, holy cow, this stuff really works. Like, I didn't know I could live this way. It was such, I wish I could get to that super high, because going from being totally ignorant of this way of going through life, of this way of applying the spiritual truths and understanding them and applying them personally, like not just, oh yeah, well, that's in the Bible, that's nice, but actually applying it gets results. The sharp contrast from how I thought and experienced life prior to that, and then how I was now experiencing it, was it was incredible. It was like, life is magical. And now, for better or worse, you know, there's a part of me that, well, now I realize that, and two things can happen. One is I get complacent, which isn't good, because then I'm reminded quickly when situations go haywire. Okay. Well, you haven't been on it. You know, you haven't been minding your thoughts. You've been entertaining, you know, all these ideas that you know don't feel good. And then on the other hand, it's almost as if, because I've experienced for so long, that I don't get that super high. However, the good news is I still am always in awe. Like, there's this part of me, thank goodness, that still remains in awe about the everyday demonstrations. Like I mentioned earlier, with regard, this had to do with my book and the shop or whatever, the museum store, saying, no, it's not really applicable. Well, anytime I thought negatively about that during the week, instead of, okay, well, we're moving on to something better, which I was feeling predominantly even after it happened. I didn't go into a spiral. I was just like, okay, God's on it, because I do the morning work. However, I get tired, I get hungry, I would start thinking negatively about it. And that's when I started using trust in good. And I wouldn't allow myself to think that way. I was almost like being a very good, stern parent to myself. No, don't do that. And we're going to think good. We're going to trust in good. And then by the end of the week, I mean, this was from Monday to Friday, or no, sorry, Saturday to Friday. Saturday was, sorry, we're going to pass. And then just yesterday was, you know what, I'm going to take another look at this and reconsider.
Did Rod talk to them?
Yeah, he got an email from them.
Nice. So he emailed them back, or?
He emailed them back.
Nice. Because the other thing I was going to say is you're blessing the people who are working on your
behalf. That's the best. Yes, that's the part I wanted to say too. Is I was doing friends. It's like when I get in traffic and you could get grumpy about it and about the other drivers, I'll just start affirming friends, friends, friends. Like these are my friends. And then
Yes.
thinking about these opportunities, switching from the idea that they have a determination over my fate in this situation. Like I have to overcome. These people are in charge. They're going to make the decision that ultimately affects me. I have to switch it to, excuse me. No, like you said, golden key it. God's in this situation, and I'm really just making friends. This is an exercise in making new friends. And I wouldn't care if a friend didn't want to eat a sandwich I offered him.
Right.
I was like, okay, then I'll eat it. So by switching it to these people in these seemingly positions of power,
Yes.
I just switch. No, I'm just here making friends. And that also helped me at the end of this week send an email to a gallery regarding my artwork down in San Diego. Because I'm always like, no, I don't know what to say. I don't want to come off like I believe in this art too much that they think I'm arrogant. But I also want to be able to share that, hey, I think this would work, beneficial for the both of us. But because I had been doing that all week in regards to the book, this morning I just cranked out an email. Boom, 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 boom. And I think this, and this. And I was totally honest. You know, I think at this price point, I have these 4 framed ready to go. At this size, I think you're, the collectors will snatch them up right away. And I felt totally confident saying that. Whereas, maybe a month ago, I'd be like, I better ask someone if this is okay to say.
That's awesome.
So, and you know what the best part is, Jim, is it doesn't matter if they say no. Like that, I'm just here making friends. I'm making friends with this gallery director. I don't care. Like that's the best high.
Yep.
That I'm trusting in good.
Isn't it the funniest thing? How surprised we are after we've applied a principle and it worked, how surprised we are that it works again the next time we try it.
Yes, that's the one thing that keeps me going, though. Isn't that wonderful? In a way, that it's ironic. Isn't it funny that we're surprised this works all the time? But then again, I'm kind of grateful I still have that awe, like where we get excited that it actually does work.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose a thing you'd want to be is to be in a state of awe and wonder all the time, and joy the time, and love all the time. I suppose that would be. I don't think it would get monotonous.
No.
But I think it's sort of humanly. I think humanly we think that it might. Well, what if things went, really well all the time? Wouldn't that get boring?
No.
So. Oh, the other thing I did want to mention was Ed was talking about. I'd really prefer to
I'd rather,
this.
yes.
I love that. That's a great technique. I'd never heard of that before. But you're when you say that, you are shifting your attention from whatever it is that's sort of lesser for you to something more. And that sort of then, again, whatever you put your attention on is what ultimately you end up, what you immediately experience and what then grows. It's sort of like you put your attention on, it's sort of like shining a little sun and put a little water on a seed. And it immediately starts to its process of manifesting, or whatever you want to put it. So I love that. So thank you for sharing that one.
Oh yeah, well I would add too. It's in some cases it's not even like you're just starting to water a seed. It's like you're looking to the forest of redwoods that you're already standing in.
Yeah, that's true.
And recognizing, well, like the fear way is thinking I got to start from here and all. It's going to take a long time. The other part is, well, why don't you look over here because you're already way further ahead than those thoughts are telling you.
Yeah.
That's really it can be a very challenging thing to redirect your attention from what we take to be the reality that's in front of us. If you're working, especially if you're like, you're working with someone or praying with someone who's experiencing a health challenge or any other kind of challenge in your own life, the temptation is to accept the reality of that experience and think that's what I have to stick with.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think sort of the whole sort of essence of what New Thought was sort of from its beginnings was this notion that we don't have to accept the appearances of what's appearing as we don't have to accept it as reality.
That's
And
right.
what's more, it's not reality.
Right.
It's the absolute is the reality, and the
That's right.
absolute is always absolutely good.
That's
So
right.
my good is my God, right?
That's right. And I thought I immediately started thinking about Emma Curtis, and when you were saying that, when Darrell was talking about, when you guys were talking about the idea like of where we are now compared to how we used to feel. I was just thinking about, it's like, of course, when I first learned how to fly, I'm going to be like, this is incredible. I
Yeah.
didn't know I could fly. Now I'm flying. Whereas if you're flying all the time, it's still amazing. And
Yeah.
if you think about the fact that now a lot of the things that don't happen for me that used to happen, like a lot of struggle, a lot of fight, you forget all
yeah.
about that, and it's like,
Yes.
thank God, but it just reminded me of that, like how good, and for everyone out there who's practicing this stuff, because as the flying one, we're also inspiring other people to fly. It's all part of this process, and then I also thought, like, part of the reason why it's always going to feel amazing. It's like we're like complete, when we live this way and we complete the circuit, God's love flows through us. That feels good every time. And like you said, it will never get boring, because that is the feeling of being in the flow of life and letting it flow through us, right? It's
Amen,
one part
brother. Amen.
relief from the restriction, but second part, flowing with God, is just an incredible feeling. Yeah.
Being in the flow. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Eric Butterworth read a book called In the Flow of Life or something like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And then I had an example when I was 15. I was playing football with my friends in the park, and I had been playing football on a team in high school, but I had always had this knee that popped from like very young. I can remember, like, I never say anything to anyone. It's just I'd be squatting and this feeling would happen, and so something happened, and I got tackled by some guy, and the cartilage came out of the knee, and like there was all this. It was crazy. But the first doctor I went to was this very old school, older fella, and there's a lot of fear, and my family tended to have a lot of fear around this type of thing. And the guy said, "You'll never run again. We'll do this surgery." And it was like self-pity and this almost like virtuous suffering, this thing that happened. So then someone else recommended I go to the second doctor. And this is like the difference between when we listen to my old fear, limited thinking, to going into this God consciousness we're talking about, where God is good always, is the second guy says, he was this new modern sports doctor who worked on people like the LA Rams, or at the Angels, because I lived in Orange County. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we see this all the time. All we got to do is do this, and arthroscopic surgery with there'll only be a little tiny line, and you'll be running like within like 6 weeks, back good as good as gold." And that is such a good example. Like, I've learned that, like, these voices that inside me, they're putting on a lab coat. They're giving me these prognosis. They're telling me what other people are thinking, and they don't know. They just don't. They're just. It really is fear, false evidence appearing real, as they say. It's not reliable information, especially nowadays. There's just so much more. It's so important to go, like, if something feels bad and limiting. But this is the thing. If we go looking to reaffirm limiting ideas, if we go looking to reaffirm that it is as bad as we'll find it. We will find people who will reassure us.
Well,
of that.
because you even had, without going into too much detail, that you even had doctors agreeing with a condition that you told yourself you had.
Yeah.
Until finally,
it was almost 30 years of it being treated.
Yeah.
And then finally, but I had worked on it with these tools and affirming that can't be true. Those beliefs can't be true based on what I know now. And finally, one person asked me about the origin of it. And they were like, "Well, that can't be. That's not how this works." Turned out that the condition was never what that could do. Like, it was just, but I would find these like really older, like, it it's true. It reflects our consciousness. Like, I just went through something that was bringing up all these fears, and I mean, this is like what you're saying, why this stuff is exciting. It's like, I was like, okay, I've listened to these thoughts before, and they've always, even with that experience, that exact example, they're always wrong. But it was so convincing to me in my mentality, but I just had to just keep going. Just keep coming back to these principles, keep coming back to this, like, what I know to be true, that only the good is real, coming back to it. And slowly over a few days, a week, it's like the whole thing has evaporated. And now I'm just so glad that I stuck with this plan.
Wouldn't it be great if we could get these ideas to our young children as they're growing up?
Yeah.
To apply. Some kids do get that, others don't. Your sports related story made me think immediately of a student I had when I was teaching in the Unity Ministerial School, who in his previous work, he was a sports psychologist.
Yeah.
And he had worked with Bruce Jenner. Okay, when Bruce Jenner was in the Olympics, or was trying to get into the Olympics, I guess you would say.
Right.
And the one, I remember the story. He said the one event that Bruce Jenner struggled with the most was the high jump. I think it was not the pole vault, but the high jump. And he just had trouble clearing this one level that he needed to get to in order to win the event. He just struggled with it. So this friend of mine, who was the sports psychologist, told him, he said he'd been using visualization, because visualization in sports has been around for a long time. He'd been using visualization, and he asked him about how he visualized during the high jump. And he said, well, I visualized myself clearing the bar. He says, I want you to visualize jumping to the ceiling, clearing the bar by, 20 feet or something like that. So he started doing that visualization, and it got him to where it was he wanted to get. It got into being able to clear that bar that he had so much trouble, and clearing it easily. And of course, the rest of the story is he went on and won, what is it, the pentathlon? Or was it
maybe decathlon, I think.
Decathlon,
maybe?
yeah. And I thought, and they've been using this for years. So that's another thing, is we don't have to try to imagine realistically when we're shifting our attention. We can imagine an exaggerated sort of imagery. And that will help lift us past our 100%. Sort of limited ways of thinking about things, even though it might not enable us to jump all the way to the ceiling. It will enable us to jump higher than we would have otherwise. So
right.
So just seeing, the idea of going to getting second opinions, third opinions, or however many opinions you need to, on something that's a serious medical issue is kind of always a good idea. And that's kind of another way of what you're doing is you're putting your attention on, this is I'm going to get this healed. I'm going to get this fixed, if you will. You just keep your attention on that rather than necessarily giving in to sort of the first diagnosis. Sometimes the first diagnosis will be fine, but it isn't always. And so I think it's a lot of times a good idea. Just go ahead and, explore your alternatives, right?
No, and also, like, I've learned I've watched Darrell do this a lot of times, and now I do it all the time. It's like, when someone tells me something is going on, I've learned it's not sacrilege to say, I can't wait to hear the good news. Or the other day, someone was going through something, and I was like, I just have a feeling that you're going to fully recover. And actually, I sent her to the doctor that Darrell has this great physical therapist. He's this mystic kind of guy who works on the LA Kings and such. And I passed on that information. But, like, also, I actually sincerely was like, and I could tell it was like a glass of water for her. She, like, someone actually wholeheartedly saying, I have a feeling you're going to fully recover from this.
Yeah.
Those seeds in our can really, what did you say? Hope, what about hope and recovery? Recovery always follows.
Yeah, wherever there's hope, recovery follows. Period. End of story. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Wherever there's hope, recovery follows. Do you want to read that reading now, Jim?
I would be happy to do that.
It's from Joyce Kramer.
Is this from a book that she did, or is this from a book?
It's from actually it's from her website. There's a guy there. What's his name again?
Sammy Smith.
Sammy Smith, who is close with her.
Do you know Sammy Smith?
I do not know Sammy Smith. I did know Joyce Kramer, though.
Oh, wow.
Well, he takes, she had written all these, I guess, over the years.
Oh,
So he
okay.
just sends them out. You could sign up for it at Joyce Kramer Ministries, and the email will come to you with no ads or anything. It's just a clean email with one of these readings each day.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
in her last years, or the later part of her life, he spent a lot of time with her, like archiving all this stuff she had written and creating this website with her. And like, yeah, it's a great email that we get every morning.
That's beautiful.
JoyceKramerMinistries.com.
Well, good thing I asked, because now your listeners and the viewers can sign up for that email if they like. Okay, so
Yes.
here we go. It begins with an affirmation. I rely on God's wisdom and power to direct my inner thoughts and my outer ways. I am peaceful and effective. If we do not exercise wisdom, the uncertainties, disappointments, and concerns of daily living can accumulate till we become burdened and overwhelmed. Anxiety and troubled thought become barriers to our peace of mind and to our effectiveness. Take time daily to turn to God. Know that God's freeing, loving spirit will guide you rightly. As you affirm that divine wisdom is at work in your life, there will be no room for uncertainty, disappointment, or concern. God can absolutely be relied upon. Knowing this will give you a new perspective. You'll become poised and serene. Every difficult situation or inharmonious condition that confronts you will be straightened out. God's wisdom and power will help to direct your thoughts and your actions. Scripture is from Proverbs. To acquire wisdom is to love yourself. People who cherish understanding will prosper. Proverbs 19, verse 8.
Ah.
Very nice.
Wow. That was great.
So what do you think, Ed? I guess we're ready to wrap up.
Yeah, Jim, you want to throw anything else in before we do a quick little story about that we found about you from the archives?
No, I want to hear the story. Oh, I did have one other thing. I mentioned the sports psychologist. I applied that visualization thing to improve my bowling average by 10 pins. So
Nice.
I did try it just to see,
Yeah.
bowling was kind of the only thing I did and it was measurable. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've used it in the old surf world before.
Ah,
When you were, the only reason I brought up the thing about flying and like doing something amazing at like the first thrill of doing something new. Thankfully, we, like you said, we do continue to feel it. But there's, like on a skateboard when I was like 12, we learned how to ollie, where you like hop up in the air on the board, and it's like this crazy thing of like flicking the board and doing all this stuff, and like when I just remember when I was a kid not being able to do it, and then you start to be able to do it, and it's just there's a thrill that goes through your whole body and your whole, like there's certain things back then that it's good to go back to and remember like how that felt and realize, man, that's what I can aim for now, like feeling like that. And I'm not too old to learn whatever it is, doesn't it? Like I can still feel that thrill, and that's why I think these great teachers that we read from, like Martha Smart, you could tell they're still feeling that thrill.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yep.
So apparently Jim Gaither's Sunday school teacher read to his class from the Bible.
And the Lord said unto John, come forth, and you will receive eternal life.
Jim quickly raised his hand from the back of the room, and his teacher called on him.
Yes, Jim?
Jim replied,
What would John get if he came in fifth?
instead of fourth. Come forth, and you receive eternal life.
I suppose you get a fifth, but that's another story.
Well, everyone, thank you for being a part of Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. Subscribe and share the show with your friends. We got a quick little hymn.
A hymn
Take us out.
from Aretha.
I think it's safe to say for all of us that
We're going riding on the freeway of love winds against our backs.
We're going riding on the freeway of love in my pink Cadillac. One more time. We're going riding on the freeway of love with the against our backs. And we're riding on the freeway of love in my pink Cadillac. Woo-hoo-hoo!
There's nothing like a bad song. A good song sung poorly
And cheerfully.
and cheerfully to lift anyone's spirits.
Jim, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
We'll send you the
pleasure.
links.
Yeah,
You guys are so much fun.
You're
You
amazing.
too.
Yeah,
You
we love
too.
spending time with you, and we'll send you the links to the show, and we'll talk to you soon, man. Anything we can ever do for you, let us know.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you're doing great work, guys. That's good enough for me.
That means a
thank
lot
you.
to us, man.
Thank
All
you.
right, and everyone on YouTube land, have a great week. Darrell and Ed love you. All right.